Okay, so let's save this. You can see a little asterisk there that tells us this file has been modified and not saved. So let's click Save All. Done. Go back to game 1. I reviewed the video and that music is still too loud. I'm going to turn it way down, just to make sure you can definitely hear me for once. Alright, so what we're going to do here? Well, I'm thinking we can probably add in some content for particles. I've added in here a smoke particle, an explosion particle, and a star particle. The idea being smoke is emitted when you fire, explosion obviously when you hit something, and stars are just going to fall from the sky as if they're flying through. I'm focusing on the explosion one though. Right, so to do that, you'll need a particle emitter for explosion. As usual, initialize it. A particle emitter for you know what? I'm gonna actually add in a debris emitter as well to go along with that. They'll both happen at the same time, but I'll make them separate emitters just for ease of separation. Keep them separate in your mind. So smoke emitter as well, and stars spawning from the sky. Now, I'm not going to do them all at once because there's a lot involved. I'll start with the explosions, as I say. So if I do Control M, Control O, that minimises all of our functions. And I'll skip straight to load content. I think it's probably the appropriate place. After loading the background image, we're going to start faffing around with our explosion emitter. First of all, let's load our texture. No, omitted, not space background, that's the one right there. Explosion P. Oh, wait a second, I'm going to run it right now because I have a feeling that's not going to work. I just remembered when I double click that, it looks fine, but actually I am loading another content pipeline. Let's open this file location, just keep it tucked away for the moment. This is actually loading the wrong pipeline, so let's make sure we open up the right pipeline. Engage with particles, content. Wait, what? P. Let's go back and just make sure. Yeah, this is still the wrong folder. Invasionators with particles, content, NGCB. There we go. This is the actual content. I don't know why it loaded up the wrong one there. Mine does that sometimes. Anyway, so keep an eye out for that just in case. Let's add those images. Incidentally, by the way, you can see them here. It's a pretty crappy picture that I drew myself in MS Paint. That doesn't look much like an explosion, does it? You might be surprised how it turns out though. That's the power of particle systems. You can make crappy things look good. Okay, so that's what we want. Our files from this folder, so copy and paste that folder location in. Add an explosion particle, the smoke particle, and the star particle. Copy them over. And close and save. With a bit of luck now that won't crash anymore. Sorry about that. Okay, so we've now got an explosion particle. And we need to set up a buttload of stuff as well. The alpha change, for instance, it's gonna gradually fade out. Let's set that to 0.03. 3% fade per frame. And then the explosion emitter, we're going to set the rotation speed because the maximum minimum rotation at the moment is a bit too high. It's going to rotate too quickly for a small image like that. Wait, shouldn't that be the negative one? Minimum's -1, maximum's positive. Okay. Also scale. Minimum scale for this I'm going to make 0.6f. Notice I've just put in one number into vector 2. You can do that if you want. All that means is it's going to have that same number for x and y. The maximum scale I'm going to set to double that. So somewhere between 0.6 and 1.2 scale. I feel like I've missed something with scale. I might need to look into that. I think I mixed up vectors and floats, but one thing at a time. It's going to grow exponentially. Our explosion is going to fan out with a proportion of 4%, so it's going to grow 4% compound over time. And that'll do for now. There's more we could add in, but I think that's all for now. We don't want to apply gravity to an explosion, I don't think, at the moment at least. So then what do we do next? Let's go to update gameplay. Check coins. Let's update our emitter. Not update the emitter itself, but update all the particles within it. We need to pass on the game time. And look, we don't have access to a game time, so we need to get one. It needs to be passed on down here. So our update gameplay method now has to be given a game time, which it then passes on to our particle emitter so that it can time things properly. But that means our update gameplay method call has to also be given a game time. Let's find a reference who's going to do that. Yeah, the update itself has a game time, so let's pass that one. And we're back to working order. Then I guess we need to draw it. You can use this drop down, by the way, to get straight to various things. Let's draw gameplay. Now, it's fairly common for particle systems to use their own sprite batch, because a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them will need to have a certain blend state. So this is one of the optional parameters. I'm going to set blend state to be blend state additive. So if we're using additive color, it's going to spawn multiple things on top of each other. What's wrong with that? Capitalization. The variable is called blend state, but the enum is called blend state with a capital B. So just keep an eye on that again, as usual. Wish Microsoft would use different names for things, but not the only ones. Anyway, so in between that sprite batch, we draw our explosion. We don't want to use additive for regular stuff, because then you get some pretty weird effects with your regular game. Try it out and see what happens. It can be interesting, but it's usually not what we want. Whereas for explosions, we do want to overlay them over the top of existing images. So let's do that. Explosion emitter dot draw. Pass in the sprite batch. Oh, your uncle. But there are no sprites in there at the moment, so I think it'll run, but we're not going to draw anything. So what do we do? Let's see. The check collisions, I guess, is the best place to look. Tank gets an alien. Let's start with player bullet hitting an alien. Before we remove the alien, we're going to spawn an explosion particle, or a number of explosion particles, I should say. So we're going to take explosion emitter and give it a range of places for you to generate particles. So the minimum coordinate is going to be player bullet dot position minus another vector. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna separate that out a little bit. Let's create a variable called spawn position first, or spawn center, I guess. And it's going to be player bullet dot position. You'll see why I'm doing this a little bit later. And just refactor that a little bit. So same result, but we take the position of the bullet as the center, and we subtract 10 pixels to the left and above it. So that's the furthest left and above that our particles can spawn at. The maximum is going to be the same thing, but plus 10 pixels. So we've got overall we've got a 20 pixel by 20 pixel box for particles to spawn within initially. It might be better to use a circular kind of spawn area, but rectangular is easier to start with. Okay, so then we need the explosion emitter to emit 10 particles. And that's that, but these 3 lines we're going to use whenever there's another explosion to spawn, like when the aliens bump into the player or aliens bump into a shield or something like that. So what I'm going to do is extract that. Highlight the 3 lines you want, right click, go to quick actions and extract. You've done this a few times, but look what will happen. It's going to say pass in the spawn center as a variable. Let's change that to spawn explosion. While refactoring, it's recognised that we need access to the spawn center, which I had not had highlighted, so it's automatically made that into a parameter for me. Let's have a look at the implementation of this code. It accepts a spawn center parameter, uses that as normal. What variable does that take? The one we pass in here, spawn center. And now I can factor that back in again. So spawn an explosion at this coordinate, that's basically what I'm saying, and then it runs away and actually calculates where round about that it should spawn. Okay, but now what we can do is take that line, spawn explosion, and apply it when the alien hits a shield. But obviously the player's not involved now, so we just take the alien's coordinate. And apply it when, we could do it when the player bullet hits a shield, let's not overdo it though. Alien bounces into a shield, we'll do it then as well. So 3 different times, the index is called A, so I'll make sure that, keep an eye on that. So it's 3 times now when it should spawn emitters. Let's see how that goes. Nice. Pretty decent. I think it could be even better though. Let's use the debris emitter. I'm going to copy and paste the settings for the explosion emitter, highlight them and do Control H and change explosion to debris. Place all within now that won't replace everything, just the things within this selected area. So there we go, debris emitter. Let's even change that one in there to debris P. Excellent. Probably want some different settings in here though. So what, like the debris thing is quite small, so let's make the scale a bit bigger. And in fact, you know what? I'm going to make it 2-parter. So 1.3 and let's say 0.5. So it's going to be stretched a bit. That's the minimum. Wait, sorry, that should really be the maximum. Because the minimum, that's a bit too big. Let's 0.9 to 0.5. So the horizontal size is the same, but the vertical size is going to range a bit. And it's going to be stretched a little. I'm going to give it more rotation speed. The debris is going to fly off more than the flames will. The velocity also is going to be a bit bigger. Where's the velocity? Oh, I've not got velocity in there. It's going to use the default velocity at the moment. Make it fade out a bit faster as well. What else do you want? Max scale, min scale, alpha change, rotation speed. Oh, the velocity, yeah. No, the debris shouldn't grow either. So debris emitter minimum velocity. We're not going to use the defaults because the debris will fly away a bit quicker. So somewhere between, let's say, -15 and +15. Okay. What else do we do with the explosion emitter? Copy and paste that and make it debris as well. The debris emitter will update all its particles. When spawning an explosion, we want to also spawn some debris. Oops, messed that up. Okay, so do we want to use the same range for that? I don't suppose it would hurt. We could also mess about with how many we want. Let's put 15 debris instead, a bit more debris than flames. And don't forget to draw it. You notice how easily it is to put in the second emitter. Once you've done all the hard work of getting one emitter working, the second one should be easier. Don't seem to have added it. Let's go and find it. Oh, you know what? I'll use a star. Nobody's going to tell us it's meant to be a star when you see it flying off at high speed during the explosion. It's not quite what I wanted though. Velocity. Oh yeah, I've used min velocity twice. And the alien should also spawn explosions when we bump into the machine. Come on. Not bad. We could also make things use gravity. Let's do one that uses gravity, the smoke emitter. This obviously uses the smoke particle image. It's going to fade out more slowly. Rotation speed, not so much. Maybe we can make it lower than that. Scale, let's go with that. Velocity now. The minimum velocity should be to the left, the maximum should be to the right. But on the y coordinate, it should always be going upwards because we're shooting upwards. So we're going to, at the minimum, -4, maximum -2, somewhere between there. But probably the important part of this one is that it's got an acceleration. Some gravity applies to this one. I'm going to start with something like that, see how it goes. I expect these smoke particles are probably going to last a bit longer. So we're going to give it a larger time to live, of about just over a second. I think that ought to be good enough. Let's get it to update the smoke emitter particles and draw the smoke emitter particles. So when should it emit them though? I guess that's when you fire. I don't want this to happen too much. Maybe I should put in a cooldown for the gun. Yeah, I'll put in a shot cooldown and a constant maximum shot cooldown for it to heat back up to once you press the fire button. So it'll go from 500 down to 0, then you can fire again. So we press space, we need to then also check that the shot cooldown is 0 or less, and if it is, we fire the bullet and make the shot cooldown no longer cooled down, bring it back to the maximum. And outside of that if statement, so this happens every frame, the shot cooldown will go down by, is it GT? Do I have game time in here? Okay, I guess I need to add another variable. I should handle a cooldown. It means I need to check the references and pass the game time down. Let's go back to the spacebar being pressed. Okay, now this is where we want to generate smoke. So use the smoke emitter. I'm going to emit particles. Let's make it 15. Reasonable amount of smoke, but where should it come from? So the source box, the minimum should be, you know, I could use the player, but I've already figured out where the player bullet comes from. Let's use that player bullet position. But move it along a bit and down a bit, because otherwise it'll be at the top left of the bullet. Oh, yeah, I've missed a bracket there. Why did I need a new vector 2 in there? What am I thinking? So source minimum is the position of the bullet plus a few pixels on. And the maximum, what happened there? Maximum, again, is going to start from the bullet and add on some pixels, but give it a very narrow range from, you know, the X is always going to be the same, Y has only got a 15 range. Nah, let's make it a few particles range. Okay, so it's going to emit 15 particles on firing. Let's see if that works. Gravity at work as well. Gravity bringing the smoke down. Something I don't quite like about that though. Not enough alpha maybe? I don't know. Let's turn up the alpha, see if that's any better. Yeah, I think so. The speed is probably a bit too high as well. You can mess about with that to your heart's content. That's the general idea. So we've now got a particle that is affected by gravity. And last but not least, we're going to have a particle emitter that does its own thing. One which has its own update is the stars. Oh, in fact, I've already got a star emitter. So we'll set up this star emitter slightly differently. And they're not going to have an alpha change because it's going to stay the same brightness all the time. But I think I might change the tint, colour, to make it kind of grey, otherwise it's going to end up too bright. Red, green, blue, alpha. The rotation speed, that seems fair, yep. As for the scale, should be a bit smaller, we don't want to distract from the player's attention. Even that might be a bit too big, but we'll see. The velocity should, I'm going to have them go to the left, I think. Definitely down the screen though, so not a negative number, must be a positive number. Let's go with 4. And the maximum I'm going to keep the Y the same, so all the stars fall at the same speed. In fact, I'll not give it too much variation on the x-axis because otherwise they might look a bit weird. No acceleration though, we don't want gravity to affect all the stars as we fly past them, that'd be a bit weird. And the default time to live, we just need to give it enough time to make sure they definitely go off screen, let's say 5 seconds. So we still need to update all the particles, but this time we also update the star emitter itself so that it will spawn its own particles. The default settings for that probably aren't much cop, so let's add some more in. Star emitter dot particles per second. Let's spawn how many? Let's say 5. Is there any more things we need to set actually? I think that might be it. The rest is handled internally, isn't it? Because they're private variables. Okay, now I could draw them here. Let's see how that looks if I do that in fact. Not seeing anything. I did not see anything there. It's still ridiculously loud. I might even turn the music off just for now. I'll run it a few frames. We should have some particles by now, and we will set a breakpoint here. Check the star emitter. No particles. Okay, so it's not spawning particles. Let's move forward to the next update and see what it does. 200 milliseconds between particles, fair enough. 60 milliseconds have elapsed. Oh, that should be a minus, shouldn't it? Because we're not counting upwards, we're counting downwards. And it's got stuck in a loop. So let's pause it. We've got a rather large amount of particles there, hey? I've definitely done that wrong. Let's have another look at that. I did this earlier, let's compare it. So, our particle system counts down until it reaches. If that's minus, then this must be plus. Still not seeing anything. Let's go to our star emitter and check if there definitely are particles again. Yep, there are definitely some particles in there. So what happens when it tries to draw them? It's off screen. Have I given it the wrong velocity? Star emitter, let's see, need a texture. The alpha should be, the alpha should be 0. Default time is fine. Maybe too much alpha there. Don't know. Minimum rotation speed. I don't think that really matters too much. And scale between 0.5 and 1. It's definitely going in the right direction. To the left, and down. Oh, you know what it is. We haven't defined the source area where they spawn from. So they're going to spawn from somewhere just off the screen to the left to somewhere just off the screen to the right. Fingers crossed. There we go. Stars flying past. Smoke. Explosion. Rain. Okay, simple particle system. Not as simple as they can possibly be, but also not as complicated either. There's loads more you can add, obviously. That'll do for now.